Happy Thursday. I've got an awesome review for you guys today. It is a iPhone gimbal called the ATOM. And check this out, it folds up. So this is a completely unique designed iPhone gimbal that gets you some pretty awesome footage. So the company that's made this gimbal is Snoppa, and if you've seen some of my videos in the past, I worked with their Kylan M gimbal, which is great for smaller cameras, and I had a positive experience with their gimbals in the past. Now they recently came out with the ATOM, which is a foldable iPhone gimbal, and I was a little skeptical at first because for the price and for the functionality, this is a completely unique design and a completely different way to approach a gimbal. So we came out here to the Santa Monica Bluffs to test the ATOM. It's kind of like the perfect spot to test a gimbal because you got this beautiful view of the ocean, we got some trees. Me and Jesse are gonna run around and just see what we can shoot with this gimbal. One of the really cool things about the ATOM is that it's so small and that it folds up. I mean, look, where is the gimbal? The gimbal's in my pocket. It folds up, so both the motors completely fold, and it fits small enough where you could just throw this in your pocket, which is pretty awesome for a gimbal. I mean, if you're gonna have a smartphone gimbal, it should be portable. And there's been a bunch that I've worked with in the past that are big and kind of obnoxious, and they're just a pain to use because why do you want to carry a big gimbal for a small camera? I mean, your phone's tiny. So this folds up into your pocket. You can just throw your phone and your gimbal in your pocket anytime and have an awesome, smooth, stabilized experience. But let's check this out. So this folds out and you just unlock each of the motors and you can pop in your phone, power on, you're good to go. One of the really cool things about this gimbal in particular is the design. So with a lot of your gimbals, you typically have your motor sitting in the back. With this one specifically, the motor's kind of off to the side and it's kinked like that way. So you have a completely like 180-degree view of your screen. You can look at any direction and you can see your screen, which is a massive improvement for a gimbal because when you have the motor there, it's a pain to try and see what you're filming. So I've been working with this all day today, and just having that motor kicked off to the side makes a huge difference in the filming experience. All right, let's see what kind of footage we can get with this. So one thing to note, if you watch gimbal reviews, you really should make sure that person reviewing a gimbal is shooting in like 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second, because if you're shooting slow-mo on a gimbal, then you're not gonna be able to see any of the jitters or all that. So I'm shooting everything 1080, 60 for you guys today. So beyond the design of this gimbal, there are some things that definitely make this one stand out. When you're mounting your phone, it's super easy, it's super fast, you just click it in and you go. You don't really have to do anything with balancing to make sure that the gimbal's set properly, you just have to put your phone kind of in the center. And with that, you can use larger lenses. So it has a heavier payload and you don't have to be completely balanced every time you put your phone on the gimbal. I have right now the Moment lens on it, which makes, with the iPhone 7 Plus, a very heavy iPhone setup, and it's been using it pretty well. So as you notice, I'm able to shoot with this wide lens on. Definitely if you're doing like some crazy movements, it starts bouncing a little bit, but I could see if you had a smaller phone with these lenses, you would have no problem. Most gimbals don't allow you to put these lenses on it because it will completely throw off the balance and the gimbal doesn't work. So I'm super surprised by that. It's something that I think is actually really cool because you can carry the gimbal, your phone, and a couple of these Moment lenses and you can get some awesome footage. So this gimbal will wirelessly charge your phone, which is awesome. You can also use a wire if you need to charge your phone using your wire. It's one of those things when you're shooting with an iPhone or any smartphone, you're gonna kill your battery, so you're gonna need to be able to charge it. And this thing has a 20-hour battery life. So if your phone's dying, you can just plug it in or use the wireless charging feature, and then you won't run out of power on your phone until this thing runs out of power. So it's a great backup battery, especially if you're shooting a lot and you don't want to carry more gear. You can use this as your backup battery for your phone while you're filming. Something kind of unique about this one in particular is that it's got a external mic jack on the handle. So what that does is it allows you to add some external microphones if you want to like add a clamp onto it or add it to the bottom, and it doesn't affect the balance of the gimbal itself. So you don't have this big microphone hanging on top and trying to balance all that. It just wouldn't work because of the size of it. So you could use external mics with this, and you can have them clamped onto the gimbal or tied into the screw thread on the bottom. I know a lot of people will use their phones and they want to have external mics, like if you want to have a lavalier on or you want to use a shotgun mic. A lot of times it's harder when you use a gimbal, but this makes it really easy because you can plug in your mic on the handle itself versus on the phone. Now, switching between vertical and horizontal is definitely something that you need to have accessible and easy on a smartphone gimbal, because with smartphones, you're gonna be wanting to shoot vertical for a lot of these platforms that are out there. Just vertical video is here to stay, it's not going away, so you just need to have that ability to turn the camera easily and shoot some vertical video. And with that, be able to use all the features that this gimbal has. So with this gimbal in particular, you just grab it, spin it, and then it's vertical. So it's very easy to switch between your horizontal and your vertical mode. You have a trigger on the back which locks it. You have your mode button, which allows you to switch between your follow mode or semi-follow mode, which is the tilt lock. So it will lock your up and down movement, but your panning will still pan. So you have those three modes to kind of play with depending on how you want to use it. The trigger's kind of nice sometimes because you don't have to actually switch it to a trigger lock mode. You just hold the trigger, and then when you want to let go, you just let go. I've reviewed other gimbals that have this feature, but the reason I like it on this gimbal in particular is that you also have your joystick on the front, which allows you to point the gimbal in any direction. So the combination of having the lock trigger and the joystick makes it much more usable than if you were to just have a trigger on the back. On the front, you also have another mode selector, which makes it easy to switch between time-lapse, slow motion, video, photo. That's just one thing with a smartphone gimbal. You might want to flip it into a time-lapse, do a quick time-lapse, or flip it into slow-mo. Makes it really easy and accessible. And then you have a record button right on the front. That again makes it just easy to use this gimbal. All right, let's talk about the software you get with this gimbal. So it connects easily, there's no issues with that. That's always a good thing if your gimbal connects easily. You have a few functions up top. You got your settings, and then you can go into set your resolution and all your frames per second. You could go picture quality, you could use a grid, you could change your zoom and focus controls. So this gimbal does have a zoom on the side, and it's right on the side of the handle, and it basically allows you to zoom in and zoom out, and you can change this to be slower or faster, so depending on if you want to try and use a zoom or just use it to zoom in and out quickly. You can add a wireframe mode, which is interesting. It doesn't record like that though, that's just for seeing your focus. And then you can have manual mode. In manual mode, you'll be able to set your ISO, shutter, focus, white balance, all that good stuff. So in your gimbal settings, you could do walk, run, or custom, which allows you to do your horizontal follow speed, vertical follow speed, horizontal area setting, and vertical area setting. So you could kind of play with these to figure out what you like the most. And this is something that you could just change on your screen. If we go back, you see this little star icon here. You could change that to the running man or the walking. So then we go back to general, and that's where you could just update your entire gimbal setting. Now it shows that we got Bluetooth going on. It shows right there is your mode, but like I said, if you just click on the actual controller, it pulls that up and you can use your joystick to switch between your modes. Speaking of modes, we got video, slow-mo, face track, object track, time-lapse, and if we go over to photo, we got some panoramic, we got light filled, light paint, night shot, Sudoku, and photo. Now, I don't do a lot of photography using a gimbal, but these modes will definitely give you some interesting ways to do photography. So I highly suggest if you're into photography, it might be something to explore. All right, so I'm gonna put it into face tracking to see how it tracks my face, because that's one of the features. It's also got this nice feature that allows you to, I guess it softens up your features. It's like a portrait mode, but it's supposed to be like a beauty. So I'm gonna put that on, and then we push this button here, and basically we can access our modes right from the handle. I'm gonna do face track. All right, so it wants to face track me. Face tracking on this gimbal is amazing. It actually keeps you centered the whole time. It's a great tool to use if you're vlogging, if you're shooting yourself, or if you're just shooting someone else. The face tracking is amazing. If you're doing face tracking, you have to keep it in fast mode, otherwise it does lose you. So there are a few things you have to kind of figure out with any gimbal is, you know, figure out the limitations of it, and fast movement with face tracking works great. And then a couple more features you have autofocus and manual focus. You can click on the screen to set your exposure and your focus points. You can do your flash here, you can have your light on. And then we could obviously switch. And then the last is this face beautifying, which is an interesting concept if you are into just like smoothing out your facial features. As you can see, let's put the exposure on me. So you can see here, this is, you know, obviously not edited or anything, and this is your nice facial soft features. And you could turn that off back to normal. So if there's someone who just wants to make yourself nice and soft and creamy looking, there's an option for that right there on the screen. Other than that, that's it for this gimbal software. And I think it's everything that you need is accessible and easy to use. It's thought out. There's not crazy amounts of menus. You don't have a ton of things that you have to go into to find where the camera settings are. So that's a huge positive about the Atom, and something I like. I will use this software when I'm using this gimbal. However, if you do want to use another piece of software, say Filmic Pro, just know that you won't have access to all the features if you are a dedicated Filmic Pro user versus someone who just wants to use the app that comes with the gimbal. It's portable, it folds up, it's really small, it gets smooth footage, it allows you to use these bigger lenses. So overall, I think this is a winner when it comes to smartphone gimbals. Guys, if you want to know more information about this gimbal, I'll put a link down below in the description so you guys can check out more info, more videos about it to see if it's a gimbal that's the right fit for you. All right guys, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's a lot of awesome filmmaking tutorials, some camera reviews. I also do some travel and adventure stuff on this channel that I think you guys are not gonna wanna miss out. Also, make sure you check out my Creator Film School. It's nuts to bolts, everything that you need to know to have a career as a filmmaker or a creator. All right guys, I'll see you on the next one.